Alright, hello and welcome everyone to a build refresh for Valkyr. Obviously, because all of the exalted Warframes are getting new tools, Valkyr is no exception, though not a ton has really changed for her, as much as I would personally like that. For her, in terms of shards, I only have one like parkour velocity on her. This is just like, a thing that is nice on any given Warframe, but absolutely not required at all. The rest of the shards, as we are going to go over, or really, honestly, all of the shards, if you really want to make Valkyr do big numbers, should all be purple melee crit damage shards with this exact same build. If you want to make number go very funny, that is the way to do so if you are a Valkyr lover. Otherwise, though, we can just jump into what the current build looks like. So, unsurprisingly, Valkyr's current build looks like make her stay in her 4 forever and never leave it. That has been the case for a while, and this build is no exception. We are on Eternal War because the attack speed is quite useful for what we're going to be doing here. We're on Precision Intensify, so our actual power strength is that like 260% for our 4 at least. We're on 130% efficiency, but we are on Nourish instead of our 1, so we actually get considerably more energy income than we would otherwise, and we get Viral on our claws, which is, of course, very useful. And we're also on Equilibrium, so any health orb that we pick up is going to give us a significant boost to our energy as well. And we have plenty of energy max, which is going to turn on those purple shards if you do decide to use them, with 641 total energy, so the drain on Hysteria should be fairly negligible, and we can turn it like off and on as needed if we do need to alleviate that drain some. Otherwise, just so that like Eternal War has good duration, we're on Narrow-Minded. Narrow-Minded also, that duration is being converted into efficiency for Hysteria as well to lower that cost a bit further, which is very nice. And then we just kind of, we're on Transient Fortitude for more strength here so that we do have, just even more strength. We can, just go pretty light on the investment here. Power Drift, we don't need Prime Sure-Footed. We're immune to knockdowns in our 4, which is where we want to be all the time. And we can really go pretty light here in terms of this investment because we're getting number 1 Precision Intensify, and number 2 we don't really need it for Nourish. Like Nourish just having Viral is good, but considering obviously we're going to be on an Influence build, we don't want to wait too much in the direction for Viral damage. And then Prime Continuity rounds things out, just even more duration, which is both efficiency and duration for our 2 for those times whenever it is going to be not very many enemies around. Arcane's much more important. We're on Arcane Fury for 180% melee damage. That is going to combine additively with Steel Charge for a total of 240% melee damage, which is very, very nice. Much better than Prime Pressure Point. And we're on Arcane Strike, which is going to give us a 60% attack speed, which is hard to come by elsewhere. So that's pretty much it for the main build. Kind of normal things for what Valkyr is doing here in the main. On the Exalted, however, we of course have a bunch of new tools. We're on Influence and Discipline's Merit. Discipline's Merit, totally unnecessary. You can 100% skip this, as you just really never need to do heavy attacks, though they do a lot of damage. Melee Influence, of course, is kind of the bread and butter here. We are not running Prime Pressure Point because all of the base damage increases are being taken care of by Steel Charge and that Arcane Fury we talked about. So instead of getting to run that, or having to run that really, we get to run Spring-Loaded Blade alongside Primed Reach to give us even more range on our 4, which we desperately need so that our clear is up just quite a good bit. Because the more enemies you hit and the more enemies you proc Influence on, the better your like quadratic scaling of your damage is, which is kind of what we're going for here. We're on Elementalist, usual Influence things are here. Tons of crit from Blood Rush, which we can now use. Galvanized Steel is notable here because if you are running those purple shards, I really would advise that you do actually run the Umbral mod instead. Sacrificial Steel, if you do have purple shards, you don't really need the crit damage out of Galvanized Steel, so you can very easily swap into this for a lot more just crit chance, which I think is going to be a little bit better on average if you do decide to go that way. You can see that I have this 4 mod for the Umbral Polarity, but of course, this is a much cheaper build whenever you don't put Umbrals in it and can save some space. That way, I believe it's 2 Forma cheaper, so just a 2 Forma build here. And then on the main build, it is, considerably over capacity here, and you could drop Power Drift very easily to drop this down to, I think, a 1 Forma build at its baseline as well. So that is pretty much what's up. We don't stat stick anymore, so for the purposes of that, we're on the Praetos just to make us faster, which is, of course, great. Otherwise, we're really not ever looking to use our primary or secondary, but these are good ones. In terms of our companion can open up other subsume options. If you have Lyceth's Hunt, you can run Diriga to turn Lyceth's Hunt on, so you can build more duration for it pretty much automatically. And of course, you're going to get tons of health orbs to go into that equilibrium from basically every single enemy that you're going to be killing. Well, at least every other enemy, because it's a 50% chance. But that will, alongside Burst Laser Prime, giving you 7 elements whenever Diriga does its thing, giving you a little bit of free casting, you know, maybe restoring your shield in dangerous situations where you run out of energy if that happens. You know, Diriga just generally very helpful, one of the best sentinels in the game easily, can really help out almost any build. And there's not really a ton else to talk about. Of course, we're on Naramon just to upkeep combo, but, you know, you could be on double dexterity arcanes on your primary and secondary as well if you wanted to go something that wasn't Naramon. If you wanted to go even further down the damage rabbit hole, this could be Matarai, but nothing too crazy. Now, in terms of moveset, Valkyr for a long time has kind of needed a touch-up, because in terms of what her 4 is outputting, the basic combos, this is pretty weak. It is not, like, very good movement. Its damage is okay. For the forward combo, you can move a little bit, but it stops up on, like, the kicks that you do and things, and it's pretty stilted. For the blocking combos, it doesn't really fare much better. It's kind of the same. It's very single-targety, not fantastic. Standing blocking is just, like, not really any better. It's kind of just, like, built as a stance to hit a guy, which we don't want. Now, in the past, you could go slams, which are reasonable, and, of course, are a circular AoE. But generally speaking, the best thing to do with Valkyr, and this never changed over the course of kind of the whole time she's existed, at least in like the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, slide attacks are the thing that she does. The reason for this is because her slide attack modifier is incredibly high. I think it's almost 2,000%, so it does an absolute ton of damage. And it is a circle attack that gives you really great movement, so moving through groups with this and just eliminating them all is kind of the optimal thing to do. This has been the case for Valkyr. I really do hope at some point she gets a stance rework, but right now, as it stands, it's either slams or it spins, because her base moveset is just pretty weak. That being said, she is very narrow in what she can do. She has a 1 that's useless, so we replace it with Nourish. She has a 3 that is a thing that opens to finishers, which you might use in the very, very, very narrow case of finishing some of the challenges in 1999. And then her 2 is just a glorified attack speed buff. So all she really has is a 4 that spins real good or slams pretty good. And that's really narrow, but while we're in our 4, we are actually factually completely invincible, which is a very big tank upside, and the damage output of the moves that we do have that are good is really, really high. So exceedingly narrow and probably a Warframe that is in need of a rework. But what she's got going on does work for the vast majority of content. With that, level 230 Steel Path guys, the usual suspects, throw on Nourish, throw on R2, throw on the whole host. We're going to proc, obviously, Arcane Strike and stuff, and we can go very, very fast and just chew through groups exceedingly easily with this setup. We're on just like, you know, a 3x combo here. As you get higher in combo, your numbers will get more and more funny as you kill enemies, because we are on the Eternal War Augment. We, of course, do get duration back on R2, so you basically only ever cast it once, having to recast Nourish every once in a while. But this is going to absolutely shred just anything to death. We, of course, have already talked about the Wukong build that is new, that does use spin attacks as well. The way to think about this when compared to that is that Wukong's is actually lower damage but much better range, and I would say the speed is much better, and also Wukong has other things in his kit besides it. But for Valkyr, the damage is considerably higher here of any individual hit, which does have its big advantages. But yeah, that's what's going on with Valkyr. It is, you know, an update for her, as much as I wish there was more to say that was updated about her. But it's pretty good and has like an all right kill rate depending on like kind of what the tile set does for us. So let's go see what Tav can do for us today. Okay, it's time for Tav and Brozime's favorite segment of these videos, which is Brozime doesn't have a whole lot more to say about Valkyr because there's not a whole lot else to say. So let's talk about why Valkyr's video is today and what else I've been up to for those of you that have not been hanging out on the streams and are curious about what's been going on. So Valkyr is today because honestly, figuring out what to put on her was dead simple. We did this about a week ago at this point, which is just to figure out like what build Valkyr should be on. And I've just been busy otherwise with other things. The other stuff that I have been busy with is we have been playing copious amounts of Soulframe. And I am at a point where I have farmed all of like the current gameplay relevant items in Soulframe. So soon there will be quite a bit to say about that, I think. So for anyone who was wondering if like, hey, are you keeping up with Soulframe and stuff, the answer is very much yes. I extremely am keeping up with it, I would say. And there will be more to talk about soon. and I do think it is in a like pretty good spot. But yeah, we've been going pretty hard on like getting up to date on content in Soulframe. The game is in a very interesting current position, I would say. And it'll be fun to talk about in the future here, which kind of brings me to another thing, which is why I bring this up now, which is, do you guys want to like hear more about Soulframe as it's like in a, you know, it's Preludes 9, it's in pre-alpha right now. It's Preludes 9 came out and changed quite a few things. So I don't know if you guys want, like, you know, on each of their big updates, kind of like an update on like, hey, what's going on with Soulframe? Or what kind of thing would be desired for that? Which, for anyone watching this who's like, the fuck is he talking about? What's this guy talking about with Soulframe? Is that is DE's other game that they are currently working on, that is in early stages. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of give it a touch, and you know, kind of be on the cutting edge of what's going on with Soulframe, because they've made some pretty big changes with like removing a pact and like adding like starter classes, and like they're putting factions into that game. Or not really factions as much as it is like allies, it seems, but some interesting stuff structurally with that game has like feels like it's kind of been decided a little bit, and it's a lower power game in general, which I mean definitely having played a bunch of Soulframe recently, it's hilariously lower power than this. It is like comedic when compared to this. It is like hilarious, because it is just like so much lower power than this is. And this is like, I mean, obviously this is not even what most people consider to be like a high-powered Warframe, I think, because like, you know, Valkyr is just pretty inefficient whenever it comes to doing most missions. And not to mention the need to slide attack is also generally not looked upon well, I think, currently. And she does, unlike Wukong, she does kind of have the need to slide attack in order to have reasonable clear, as it is like propel us down hallways very, very, very quickly. Lets us catch enemies and just traverse very, very cleanly. Yeah, if we look at like just the holding forward E situation is this, which like with influence it can be like a little okay, right? But like it is so much worse than just spinning through these halls and just being like, yeah, and all these enemies died. Like, it's worse in so many ways. Like, her basic attacks are, you know, I had this discussion on stream a little bit, but it's just like a reflection of like, hey, why is Valkyr like this? And just as a let's do Brozime's old. Here's our Brozime's old as fuck segment. I'm fucking Warframe Unk. Valkyr was released in 2013, which I think is not a thing that a lot of people know. Bullet jumping was out in, I believe, early 2015. It might have been like mid-late 2015, though. So her kit has not really been changed much since then. There's like little things here and there. Like they nerfed her 4 to like cost more energy at one point, which is so funny given like the current day. But she's a Warframe that is very old. Like, the reason her 1 and it's like funny haha Spider-Man goof troop ass meme stuff exists like it does is because like there wasn't bullet jumping. So like a grappling hook was like actually kind of novel at the time, and something people like, you know, actually wanted in the game. And you know, clearly we wanted like the better movement options, which we did very much get. Oh, violence is here. Let's do violence to violence, ideally. Hey, violence. You are dead now. There you go. That's for you. But yeah, like Valkyr is one of the oldest Warframes. Hey, also, hey, for people who are newer to the channel, for those that don't know, Valkyr is actually my original favorite Warframe from the ages long past. I burned out on Valkyr many years ago at this point, doing, was it 18 hours of survival for Saren Prime's chassis, I think it was. That was the burnout point for for a lot of people in Old Void. Just, man, I'm just like being like, back in my day, things were worse. Did you know that things were worse? Uphill both ways. T4 survival. We only had one mission type. Yeah, such a people say that they want the tower system back sometimes. They don't. It was way worse. It was so much worse than what we have now. The relic system is so good comparatively. Not that the relic system is like absolutely perfect, but it is. It's pretty damn good. But yeah, like, you know, Valkyr, not a complex Warframe. We're at 800 kills. We're at like a little over 5 minutes here. You can really get some stuff done with this. She's not like weak. It's just that like what's good about her is like insanely narrow. Like obscenely narrow window of thing that is good about this Warframe. But like, you know, doing this, like spinning through exterminates and stuff like that, like it's pretty fast because your like spin speed is determined by like your attack speed. Adding all the attack speed that we've added means that you can like really just chew through groups and kind of outrace a number of other people, especially if people are playing like, you know, like a kind of regular paced Warframe with like not like no parkour shards or anything. You can really like just race people through maps just spinning, especially if your navigation with the spins is pretty on point. Oh, whoop. That'll be a me needing to turn my 4 back on, which is fine. We do lose all of our combo, but combo kind of just like comes as it may. Like it's, you know, it builds up reasonably fast. Like you don't really need to increase the speed at which it builds up. Falling into an up hit will lower our damage temporarily. Enemies, please. You know what we can do? We can actually lower this. Yeah, lower damage, of course, makes influence more consistent, because whenever you're instant killing, I've mentioned this before in the past, whenever you're instant killing, though, you get less out of it. Because your electric procs actually will not propagate on enemies that you instantly kill. Luckily, Valkyr's spins tend to hit a bunch of different enemies, and at least one of them probably survives at least one touch of your claws. Probably. Certainly not guaranteed at a high combo. Yeah, the good show is things like the acolytes obviously being like, oh, they just simply die. You know, like two spin attacks and violence is exploded from the inside out. Kind of does a lot to show. And then like even beyond that, like if you have an enemy that like actually is going to be tougher, we're on viral on our claws and stuff, and the rate of statuses is not terrible. So like building a few viral statuses on will give us even more damage. Pretty consistent. Slash procs as well, which are good. Yeah, just in general, I mean, like, you know, not much like real direction needed. Like you can kind of just like hunt down enemies in the tile set because you are quite fast with the spin attacks. So like, you know, look at your mini map and be like, oh, there's red dots there. What if there weren't? That'd be crazy. Be super useful to me personally if there weren't red dots on my map. Oh, hey, it's an enemy Valkyr. I'm sure that they're just as good as the genuine article. Oh. No, probably not. Angst never really figured out the be invincible part. Hilariously, that's actually what some of the other acolytes are better at. Not that it would be any fun, probably, to fight Angst in Hysteria. That would actually probably be supremely annoying if you just like had to wait on a timer for them to run out of energy. We're 9 minutes here with 1,200 kills. But yeah, it's certainly, you know, it is not a bad way to play Valkyr, that's for sure. Probably, I mean, like, it's kind of the way to play Valkyr, really. Besides, of course, I said slam attacks. But this is generally, I think, more effective, especially on missions where you actually need to schmoove. The slam attacks are inherently much slower than this. Like, turns out slam attacks don't just, like, dash you forward through groups of enemies, shredding them to pieces. Actually, probably just preemptively head towards the exit here. We've already, you know, shredded our second acolyte into 1,000 pieces, so there won't be much more to show off. There's the exit. We got 3 seconds, 10 minutes. 1,300 kills. More than acceptable. Good damage output. Works on anything melee works on. You know, Valkyr's not a Warframe that, like, if ETA or EDA gives me Valkyr, unless there's an objective that desperately needs me to not use melee, which is pretty rare, I'm really not too shaken up about it. She's very usable, very imminently usable Warframe. Like, she spin with claw real good, and what can you do? She's like 11 or 12 years old at this point, so for that old of a kit, she's doing quite well. Most of the other Warframes from that long ago have seen pretty significant changes. But that's Valkyr. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hey everybody, it's time to thank the patrons that are hanging around and supporting the channel. So, start with that. The $10 patrons are Atheon, Alex Farnham, Arbiter Daydream, Barkus, Benuven, Plotomatic, Brutus Salazar, Candelathra, Blob World, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, James Harthorne, JC4 Science, Josh, Luzanth, Vicotel, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, Sanyu, Sharp247, The Coupon of Death, Waifu Wars, Wodad01, and Zerafir. Also, thanks, of course, to all of the other patrons for supporting the channel. It is much appreciated. It's a little sneak peek on what we're getting into. There's going to be a lot more of these kind of big re-reviews of weapon types and their new builds and stuff, as things changed a lot at the end of last year. And of course, there's also planned new free-to-play before we get into any more big updates. So look forward to that.